Beyond the Waves is a HailHailMedia production. It may contain sweary words, and adult situations may be discussed. If you're in the company of underage temps, turn off the show now and listen back later. If you'd like to get in touch with the show, email us at beyondthewaves67@gmail.com. You can also find us on Twitter at BTW Celtic Show, or you can join our group on Facebook at Beyond the Waves. Hail, hail, and keep the faith.
All right, welcome to the Beyond the Waves Celtic Football Show. The hell was that? That was like Shaggy.
Somebody's killing a donkey.
Well, I'm taking on the mantle of Shaggy, considering this pathetic beard I'm trying to grow. All right, we got a great show today. A lot to talk about. Obviously, this past week, so much going on. Before we do anything, I just want to first off thank Paul Larkin again for joining me yesterday to have a chat about his project that he's been working on, the Asterisk Years. Obviously, the book and the audio book have come out to great fanfare. Now he's working on a documentary, a film documentary. Very important work, and the discussion I had with him yesterday about that was very powerful. A lot of great feedback already about it, so if you haven't checked that out, please do so. Typically, we wouldn't do 2 shows on a weekend just because it's a lot of work. But considering everything that's going on, we absolutely have to, right, Rev?
Absolutely.
Joining us from Perth Down Boy, you heard him right there, the Mohawked Marauder, the Rev. And we'll talk about the game. We'll talk about the events at Tynecastle yesterday, as well as the transfer window. We left last week's show hopeful about the transfer window, and now that it's closed, we'll give our synopsis. But today, I thought it was a fantastic performance. It was a 1-0, and I think that it sort of flattered St. Mirren to a large extent. I mean, the amount of chances that we created and some of the build-up today was nothing short of stunning. It really was. I was particularly impressed with Johansson making his starting debut, where that's never an easy thing, especially slotting in for a stalwart like Joe Ledley. And, there's so much responsibility there with a wandering central midfield partner such as Scott Brown, and I thought he did exceptionally well. He's got a nice left foot, a tidy player. And what I like most about him is he's always looking up the park. He's always got his eyes going upfield. It's never the sideways pass as his first instinct or that backward pass, but he's always seeking to make that sort of slide roll pass, splitting the defense open. And a couple of the passes, he was just pinging balls around like nobody's business. So that's obviously great to see. A lot of the play was really routed down the left-hand side throughout the entirety of the game. That 4-4-1-1 that we've come to rely on over the past several weeks. Darnell Fisher, we're starting to see perhaps some of his youth. At times, it seems as though he may be a bit overwhelmed. He may not quite read the game as well as an Adam Matthews or a Michael Lustig, and let's be honest, that's a huge bar to set for him. But nonetheless, I mean, he's quite serviceable down that right-hand side. And to be honest, he didn't really have much cover. He didn't have a lot of protection. Dr. J pointed that out last week, and that was something that I was aware of throughout this game. James Forrest down the right-hand side, after what I thought was a great performance midweek, really didn't show himself at all today. And what we find so often is James Forrest, when he's slotted out on that right wing, he tends to drift more centrally, and it really does congest things, especially when so much of our buildup is going down that left-hand flank. Is it Gary, Mulgrew, and of course Johansson going down there? But of course, the hot topic from today's game was the performance of Anthony Stokes, which, let's be honest, it left a lot to be desired. I mean, with as many chances as we saw with our own eyes and what we're talking about here, he should have scored one and possibly even two goals. And when he had his opportunities, he was quite wasteful. Now, coming straight back in after missing the last two games, especially when he did have a run of very good performances prior to getting suspended, I think it's a bit harsh. A lot of the criticism that he's coming under just now, I'm seeing tweets, fuck Tony Stokes, get him to fuck and all this shit. Listen, it's a roller coaster, and what we've seen from Anthony Stokes over the entirety of his career at Celtic, I think it gives him a bit more of a wide berth, so to speak. And, for large stretches of the game as well, Chris Commons in that supporting striker role, early on, he was trying to set up Anthony Stokes, and for whatever reason, there wasn't the communication going on. A couple of heavy passes. There was a whole host of things that just weren't clicking, leading to our wasting the chances. And as the game went on, Commons, it seemed, got more and more frustrated with Stokes and started taking some chances himself. Maybe sort of staving off involving Anthony Stokes. And to be honest, I was glad that he was subbed off. I'll be honest. I mean, I know that's not going to be popular. He's obviously on the form of his life, but if you're going to have that supporting striker role, you need to communicate. If things aren't coming off correctly, you can't just isolate the striker that you're playing behind. You need to get into better communication and try and spur him on or try and play off him, rather than just leaving him out and sort of casting him out. I also thought it was a good move from the standpoint of bringing Mito Balde on, going back to more of a traditional 4-4-2. It gives us an opportunity to see how Balde and Stokes would play together side by side. And I don't know if we got so much of a sense of that, but when Balde came on, he had several opportunities and several, in my opinion, very good performances and opportunities to show his technique. I thought his first touch was outstanding in several circumstances, and he can carry the ball through that center channel. He doesn't have that instinct, that maybe we see with Samros and certainly Anthony Stokes as well, to sort of drift. He stays right in that center channel. That's just what you want from a center forward, and he was a handful to the center halves of St. Mirren. A bit unlucky not to get a goal for himself and taking a shot from about 20 yards out. And for me, anytime that you do so much great work setting yourself up, a fine first touch, giving yourself the space, you have every right to pull the trigger from there. And he was just wide, but I'd like to, and we've talked about this over and over throughout the past couple of months, really. I'd like to see more of Mito Balde, but the purchase of Lee Griffiths is certainly going to put that specifically in jeopardy, but we'll get into all that. 1-0, and fantastic to break a 92-year-old record. I mean, it says a lot. And I know that Fraser Forster is getting a lot of the plaudits for this, and rightfully so. I mean, he's had just a monumental presence in making this happen. But this was really a team effort, in my opinion. I think that our back line and the 29th consecutive game with Virgil van Dijk and F.A. Ambrose playing next to each other, I think they've had just as much of a hand in this consecutive clean sheet run as anybody, really. And the entire team really needs to be applauded for this terrific accomplishment. I mean, some of the work from Virgil and F. Ambrose as well, out with the last 5 minutes or so, where he decided to get a bit ropey with it, was extraordinary. They read the game so well from back there. I mean, Virgil van Dijk, coming out so far up the park, and obviously Johansson, Scott Brown, and others slotting in to cover the space that he vacates. But it must be so frustrating for the St. Mirren players, any sort of buildup that they have. I mean, a 5-yard pass, and Van Dijk's right there taking the ball away. And not only that, he can take the ball away, and his technique with the ball at his feet. I mean, some of the spins, some of the passing, some of the runs, it's just extraordinary. It's sublime to watch. Absolutely. Everybody's playing together as a sort of contiguous unit. That's not a word, but it's just phenomenal to watch, and it's so much positivity, from this performance Wednesday, and a lot of momentum going into the cup tie next week. Your thoughts, Rev?
You just said a whole lot. All right, yeah, no, it's all right. Let me start by saying this. I had this kind of realization today. I was never a fan of the 4-4-1-1 formation. I just thought it was too defensive. It didn't play well. I prefer having two strikers, but its effectiveness as of late, and this season kind of as a whole, I think Neil Lennon changed my opinion on it, and if played the right way with the right players, the right pieces to the puzzle, then I think it's actually very effective. I don't know if that's more along the lines of him coming out and saying, this is the formation we're going to play, and having the players get into that, or realizing the players that he has and making that the formation based on their strengths and their weaknesses to an extent.
Putting them in positions where, that their best is going to be lifted.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to, credit where credit's due. I'm definitely going to give him credit for that. And the same thing, side note also, to the 4-2-3-1. I also never liked that formation, but as we saw, last year, especially in the Champions League, totally changed my mind on that. So in this kind of situation, I'm going to give, the manager a bit of, credit for that.
Well, that's nice of you.
Thank you. Yeah, so... No, I always like, just 4-4-2, like a diamond, nothing inventive, but that was just always my formation of choice, and more or less getting players to fit into that. But, the model that we have now, it's working, it's not broke, don't fix it, stick with it. Mm-hmm. That said, the passing, the last 3 games or so, I think has been, amazing. The build-up play has just been fantastic. It really has been a team effort. And now, getting to, the tying Shaw's record and now, surpassing it for Forster, I think is a team effort because, as we saw, like I said, the last couple of games, the passing and just the team play has been brilliant. Today I would have loved to see, some more goals, and Stokes, you could tell he got frustrated, especially the last minute of the game when it was, 2 on nobody, and all he had to do was just run it up the pitch, and then just do a sideways pass in front of the keeper.
Too many touches. He's 10 yards away from the goal. The keeper comes out, and all he needs to do is just slot it past them. And once again, he wants to do that one extra touch, maybe round the keeper. So you just don't need it. But just blast the ball into the back of the net.
I mean, I could see him being frustrated in him wanting the goal for himself, but I think he should have passed it off. I couldn't. My stream was crappy. I couldn't tell who was running with him, but he should have made the pass.
Yeah.
And let them get the goal. About Johansson, I like what I see. I don't think he's a like-for-like switch for Ledley,
I don't either.
Now,
what about him is, in your mind, I'll follow up with this because I have my own opinions, but what about him is, in your mind, not so much like for like?
It's still too early to tell. I just don't think he's just the same quality. I can see how he's almost as good, or he can be almost as good. But, just from really one game, I can't, say for certain.
It is early. It's early to sort of, make a final analysis or anything conclusive. But my take is, as I mentioned before, I think that he has more of that instinct of pushing the ball up the park, which you always want to see. You always want to see that ingrained in a player, not so much having to coach it into a player. I think Ledley sometimes, albeit, very tidy, had a great left foot, and he could play a variety of positions. He was so strong and he was so big, but, oftentimes when that pass was there, when a forward would be dropping back to receive the ball, he'd pass the ball out wide to Zagari or, back through the center channel. Whereas, you see Johansson, he's not afraid to take on a man. And I like that. That's the vital aspect to maintaining the tempo of the game, which is so crucial for us. Oftentimes we get frustrated when the tempo slows down. It allows our opponent to sort of compress the middle of the park there, and then we're forced into lumping the ball up the park, and essentially without anybody to bring the ball down, that's giving the ball away. That's where I think the positives potentially can be Johansson versus Ledley. One thing that I'm attentive of at this moment, and one of the biggest things that I thought Ledley brought to the game, was slowing down an opposing transition. When the opposing midfield is trying to link up on the break, Ledley would do so much great work in slowing that down and dispossessing or a professional foul where it's needed. I thought there were a couple situations today where Johansson maybe had his hands full and didn't quite have the instinct to be able to deal with that. That's something that he can learn, though. I mean, coming to Scotland from the Scandinavian leagues, perhaps it's a bit more physical. Perhaps it's something that he just needs to feel his way into, and I think that's something that can easily be updated. I mean, look what happened with Key. When he came, he was absolutely disastrous in the tackle and in that role specifically. Now, granted, he never became that midfield basher that we needed, but I think that he got much better in the tackle. So I think that Johansson can eventually become as good, if not better, than Ledley. But I think that at this moment, they're two very different players in a lot of different ways. Now joining us all the way from Myrtle Beach is Peter Lowell's best friend. It's Dr. J. Dr. J, as Pedro kicked in for an ISDN line, because the Skype line is crystal clear.
Today's Skype is brought to you from the Willamette Valley in Portland, Oregon.
Ah, lovely.
So,
Pedro's driveway.
I'm the winery, so we're out at his house.
Lovely.
Sitting in the vineyards right now. So,
well, good for you. And
yes.
You sound refreshed and wide-eyed. Did you have an opportunity to see the game? Based on Rev and I, our conversation just now, why don't you chime in? Your thoughts?
I got up and watched it kick off at 7 a.m. and
lovely.
It was good. And Forrest, I don't know what his issue is right now. He just didn't stay in the game. A couple times he had a couple moves, things like that. It was okay. Yeah, right. We've seen better from him. He had that one bit of the year was I thought.
Good grief, Dr. J.
You there?
Yeah, it's the connection's horrible. It's breaking up.
You're kidding? No. How about that? Is that better? Fuck.
All right, Dr. J, let us call you back. What is this?
You spoke too soon, and you
exactly. I did jinx it. It was probably crappy from the beginning, but we didn't hear him. It's all about Pedro's driveway. Yeah, we lost him again.
Real quick, going back to Johansson, that's, I think, one of the things we do lose between him and Ledley is, Ledley can do, left center, left mid, left back, I don't know if Johansson has the ability to be shuffled around and still play with a pretty, it's going to take time to see, how he is as an off-the-ball player, like you said. Ledley was always doing, the right thing. He was right place, right time. Let's see if Johansson has that ability as well.
Exactly. And I think that, given his first start and, playing 90 minutes, it gives us a good sense of what his sort of raw capability is. It's nice also to see, and we saw this on Wednesday as well when he came on as a substitute, to see, Scott Brown, encouraging him and sort of coaching him around, pointing him exactly where to go. and how to play with this side, because we do play an extremely high line, and at times for a central midfielder that could be perhaps a bit challenging, to be able to read and to get a sense of. All right, we're back with Dr. J. Personally, I think he's on Pedro's driveway, but Dr. J, go ahead. Let's see if the connection's better.
Is that better?
Yeah, it should be.
There you go, much better. All right. No, what I thought today of everything that happened, I thought Johansson started out a little deep. Mm-hmm. And eventually worked his way up. The one thing that you hit on that is the reason why he's not a like for like with Ledley. If you noticed, the last 2 games, teams trying to get out of their own end were stymied.
Yeah.
Today there were times when St. Mirren didn't have a problem getting out of their end. I really believe that has a lot to do with, like you said, Ledley playing that plug in the middle and stopping a lot of things. And there was at the end of the game, as Johansson started, since he started out deeper, moved up higher up the pitch and started to camp out there, that started to change a little bit. But that was one of the big things that Ledley was, that we're going to have to find now. I will say this though, that 3 or 4 times, Johansson did get stuck in. He has no problem throwing his weight around and throwing his body around. And I think he'll do fine. That's the one thing I think him and Pookie need to rub each other and get some of that off of him, because he needs to get some of that too. You know what I mean? Pookie needs a little bit of physicality. But that Johansson, I was happy. What I loved about him the most, I don't know if you noticed this or just looked like that on the feed I had, but every pass he made was perfectly weighted.
Yeah, that absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely spot on with that.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
it looked like he was putting a golf ball with a broom. It was just like, and the ball just went off his foot and it would end up at somebody's foot somewhere else. And deft left foot, and
not a daft left
perfectly
foot,
weighted.
a deft left foot, absolutely.
Deft, yes. Yeah, exactly. And it was amazing. He was really. I was impressed, considering first game, and he played 45 minutes with the U20s the other day, and a couple minutes last weekend. I think he's going to fit in. He's going to fit in fine. It's up to Lenny to figure out what our next step is, because the one thing I like about this team is that the sum is greater than the individual parts.
Yeah, that's a great point as well. We have so many players that means so much more to us playing for us than they would in terms of sell-on value. You talk about Commons. What would Commons bring in the open market? I'm not really sure. Mulgrew, maybe $1 million, $2 million, somewhere. But this is a grouping of players that really, this isn't a grouping of massive amounts of talent altogether. These are players that play well together in the system that Lenny has put forth. I think that we're really missing that clinical poaching sort of striker, that finisher. But out with that, and out with maybe Virgil van Dijk and Fraser Forster, this is a team of role players that play exceptionally well together. You put them in a different system, in a different team, and maybe they wouldn't perform quite as well. But it's exceptional to watch at times. I even in spite of the missing of so many chances and opportunities, it was great to watch. At times, the build up and the tempo especially was just fantastic. It's always so exciting. Even though we're not putting these chances away, it's always so exciting knowing that there's just going to be chance after chance. And not just that, anytime St. Mirren would have the ball, it was immediately taken away. Virgil van Dijk and F. Ambrose, I thought, now granted, the last 5 to 10 minutes, he let everybody down, including me. I don't know what the hell he was doing at the end, taking the ball for a run, when clearly all it called for was clearing his lines. But, that's F.A. He gets these ideas, and, anyway. But I thought that for large stretches he was quite good, and Virgil was quite good. That must be so frustrating, them coming all the way out to the center circle, dispossessing, and then distributing. It's exceptional to watch.
Here's a stat for you that I saw earlier today. That was the 28th game in a row that those three have been in the back.
Yeah.
Between Virgil, F.A., and Fraser.
Which I think says a lot.
That says a lot.
Yes.
Wow.
You want that communication between your center halves and the keeper especially, that relationship to remain strong, almost to the point where each of the players knows exactly what the other is doing at all times. If there's going to be a center half that's going to drop deep while either Virgil or F.A., go forward, that's absolutely, it's essential, to have that communication and to be able to send sense what the other is doing at all times. And that's why I want to give them as much credit for this run of clean sheets as Frazier Forster.
Yeah, totally. Listen, I'll give you that. You gotta say that, Fa and Virgil and Izzy for a large part, and now Frazier Fisher coming over and filling in. The back three, minus Frazier. I mean, between Izzy and the two center halves, I'll tell you what, man, they've been solid. But I'll tell you what, man, that record has more to do with those defenders than it does with Frazier. Now, granted, last week Frazier's 2 big saves, those are game difference makers,
and he's had them throughout the stretch.
Yes, true, but today, I mean, I think they would have had a shutout today, even if Zaluska was in the goal. I don't think there was anything crazy that Frazier had to do other than he didn't stand up to maybe 1 or 2 shots.
I agree. I agree completely, because there's so many games when
I'm just saying those back four have been absolutely solid. And Fisher, he gets a gold star, man. I agree with you. He's kind of treading in deep water.
Well, he's isolated. You pointed this out last week. He is isolated. Yeah. There's not as much protection over there. I mean, even if James is going to stay pegged to that touchline, he's not the best at tracking back anyway. And especially when he tends to drift more centrally, that leaves Fisher extremely exposed. Now, there were a couple of times, when Fisher, went to challenge the St. Mirren player coming down the flank and got absolutely ripped to shreds. But, he's a young player. He's just coming along, just trying to read, how different teams are going to play against them. But he's certainly showing a lot of positive progression. There
were 3 or 4 times Bruni had to run down the right side.
Yeah,
because Forrest was nowhere to be seen. He was still throwing his toys out of the pram up at the other side of the box.
Well, and let's not get too critical of James. I mean, he had a fantastic performance on Wednesday, in a scintillating performance, I thought.
Yeah, but I hate when he complains. I hate when the ball gets taken away and he throws his arms up and just stands there and looks around like, what happened? Dude, put your head down and run back.
Yep.
I mean, come on. That traps my ass more than anything, and that's the one thing of him that he does. So just me, but
it's a good point. Bo Richter came on.
Yeah.
Bo Richter came on as a substitute. Anything to speak of?
No.
I have a new nickname for him.
Go ahead, Ref.
Bubble Boy.
That's not a new nickname. You've been calling him that for weeks.
No, I haven't. I just came up with that today. Swear to God.
Oh boy.
Somebody else said that, so you're gonna get.
He's not. Yeah, he's not. There's not. He came on, and that's great. But let me ask you. Bo's my boy. Bo knows the trainer, and we all get that. # Bo knows. Anyway, my question to you is, with Griffiths in, the goals he scores in the SPL, that's great. With him, I think he's going to help Stokesy a little bit more than either Pookie or Balde. But my question to you is, who's now your midfield and you're up front? What do you do? Who are you going to do? Who are you going to put in there? I mean, you can take Johansson out of that left side. You're going to take where you can do. Mulgrew's going to find a spot.
Yeah, I mean that much is absolutely certain.
Charlie Mulgrew be starting. So tell me your other, and you got Brown, Mulgrew, and then who are your other wings?
Well, I think
your
it's
other midfield.
Yeah, it's going to have to be interchangeable, isn't it? Where I guess Bo Richter is going to continue to get a look, even though he does absolutely nothing to show anybody anything. I mean, it was mind-blowing to me seeing him when I was over in the 3-1 game against Aberdeen. He came on late. And yes, I mean, obviously him coming on spurred on the last 2 goals. In a certain sense, it gave us a bit of width that we were missing in that 4-4-2 diamond. But seeing him and the way he plays, it's so timid. When he gets the ball at his feet, it's like it's almost like he's ready to flinch. He's ready to sort of dodge away from any sort of contact. He doesn't have the aggression that you need to have the ball at your feet and to drive. I think that he plays scared a lot of the time, and that's when we see him giving the ball away cheaply. I mean, if he has one player closing him down and another one comes to help out, if Bo Richter doesn't have support right there, you can forget it. We're just losing the ball. I just don't think that he offers enough. He doesn't have that quick first step from a pace perspective that Forrest has. He does tend to be a bit more positionally disciplined. For instance, I mean, if you put him on that right-hand side, he's going to stay there. And even, on the left-hand side, he doesn't have that tendency to move more centrally, but he doesn't offer enough in that role, which for me, every day of the week, I'm leaning more towards Forrest with that. Now, Forrest defensively leaves something to be desired. The other question for me is, what do you do with Beaton now? Beaton was looking.
I was going to ask you. I mean, you talk about. I mean, if you put Johansson on the left center, you still got to find a place for Brown. And Mulgrew's going to play,
right?
And okay, so now you got Commons, and if you put Stokes and Griffith up front, okay, great. Where do you find room for everyone else? I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad thing to have, a bad problem to have.
But it is
like
a question.
You have that issue.
No, but you're right.
It is a question because you know what the interesting part is. I'll ask it to you this way, because this is what I was thinking the whole entire time I saw Jamesy throw his hands up and cry up on the other side of the team, gave the ball away every time. When qualifiers roll around, I don't think Jamesy's going to get on the pitch.
Well, who would you put on in place of Jamesy then?
Matthews is going to play on that right side in front of Lustig.
It's not a bad shout. I'll be honest.
I'm telling you.
We've seen Matthews, play that role exceptionally well.
When he played at Juve, that first game at Juve, he was immense. He was immense on that right wing, and he's going to be a tough bugger to get out. And you're
talking about Milan.
I'm talking about Matthews.
You're talking about Milan. Right, Milan this year.
Yeah. Milan, yes. That's going to be a tough one. Yeah, I mean, okay, now where do you put Jamesy? Okay, he comes on for Mulgrew in the second. Mulgrew ain't coming out, guys.
No, he's not. You're right.
No, he's about as set as a piece of fortified wood at the bottom of the ocean. He ain't going nowhere.
And I think with the introduction of Johansson, who really can't play that left wing role, if you want to call it that left side of the midfield, where Ledley could. I mean, we saw in stretches over the past several games with Ledley going out in that role that Mulgrew played today, and Mulgrew actually coming in more centrally playing next to Scott Brown. I didn't think that was a bad spot for Mulgrew. I think he was growing into that position, but going forward, I can see Johansson. I'm not so sure how he would play that far wide, and I think that Neil Lennon rates Charlie Mulgrew for those balls into the box, that left foot, that can swing and crosses over and over again. And I think that's essentially where we're going to see Mulgrew for the rest of the year. And you're right. He's never going to get dropped.
And
neither is Brown.
I don't want Johansson out on the left. I don't want him out on the left because he distributes the ball so well. I don't want the sideline limiting him.
Well, and you want somebody that's going to...
I don't want him on that touchline. I want him in the middle of the park getting the ball out.
No, I agree. You want somebody that's going to be able to take on a man through the center channel.
Yes. Him and Commons in the middle... Jesus, that's gonna be. Can you imagine he played, and there were probably 2 or 3 long balls I saw today that Johansson made. That one was Stokes was offside. That was a great ball, and he had another one down to the middle of the pitch. Route 1 football, which was absolutely great because I thought we did touch the ball a little too much today. Especially what is up with all these dummies through the middle of the box to everybody? I don't get that. It's like the new thing they worked on in training this week, but. It's one of those things. He played a lot. He played some Route 1. He distributed the ball really well. I'm tickled with him. I'm happy with him, and I'm glad the way that turned out. And I'm glad he didn't pull a Bo Richter. Looked great for the first 10 minutes and then break an ankle.
Wow.
So
we knew we were getting with Bo Richter anyway. I mean, come on.
Well, you don't know. I mean, listen. When the first 10 minutes, when you saw Bo Richter come on for the first 10 minutes, were you thinking, "Oh, this guy's shite"?
Yeah, but the script was out that he plays well in one game and then he's out injured for the next 9. I mean, Johansson comes with a lot of fanfare. He's very highly rated throughout the Scandinavian sort of networks, and hopefully he can build on that and grow through our system. I think he brings something a bit different that, quite frankly, has been missing with us. So I'm excited to see Johansson come in and to see how he can grow and flourish. But getting back to your original question, the original point, what to do with Beaton, and let's not forget Berm Kyle. I mean, I'm not so sure Berm Kyle has a future with Celtic at this point. I mean, you always sort of thought of Kyle as Scott Brown's backup, and now that role clearly, especially with Kyle out injured, that role clearly belongs to Beaton. With Beaton being more of a right-footed player, I think Beaton essentially has taken on the role of Key. Maybe a late substitute that can come on and split apart defenses with some of that silky passing that he has. Especially down the right-hand channel, he can free up James Forrest down that right flank to beat a man, and then hopefully get the ball in the box. But finishing has been our sort of Achilles heel this entire season. And time to move on. Let's talk about the transfer window.
Yeah, no kidding. Because I mean, does Sammy get a look?
No.
I
was relieved to see that Sammy, wasn't going to get the start today. Listen, everybody has their opinion about how Neil Lennon rates Georgios Samaras, and he's sort of Sammy's fanboy, and no matter what, Sammy gets a look. I think that, and I hope that Neil Lennon has seen the light, in terms of Sammy is at some point he needs to, as you say, shit or get off the pot. You need to decide, is your future with us or is it not? No matter what you feel that the deal that we've tendered you is fair or not, you need to decide. Do I want to leave? Do I want to go? And and be declarative about it one way or another. Stop this. Well, I'm not happy, and I need something that's going to make me happy. I mean, please look at his.
I'll tell you what, though. What's interesting. You say that, and I agree with you 100%. The part that's really, really interesting out of all of it is the fact that I'm totally surprised that Ledley left.
I'm
not surprised. Not surprised that he left. I'm surprised that he left now. It's Sammy that does not surprise me that he's still here, because I saw a lot of people bitching. Oh well, it's unfair. What's wrong with Lawwell and the board because they didn't try and sell Sammy? Why did they let the contracts run down?
Why?
The second time they tried to sell him, he doesn't want to go.
Yeah, but
he knows exactly what the fuck he's doing.
But see, he
doesn't want to leave.
He is a moron. He's a moron.
I get you.
I completely disagree with both of these points. I'm not surprised that Ledley left, and I'm completely.
No, I'm surprised he left now.
I'm not surprised.
He's going to pull the same thing he did at Cardiff.
I'm not surprised that he left now. To be honest with you, I'm absolutely not. And to be honest with you, listen, Celtic got the bid in from Crystal Palace, and there's some dispute about how much we got in. Who cares? If we got anything, it's better than nothing. And we really forced his hand. We get the bid in from Crystal Palace. He can go down and play Premiership football right now, which he's intimated he wants to do at some point. I mean, doesn't basically anybody. But once you get that bid in, and if he refuses that, I mean, he's not going to play again for the next 6 months. And what does that do to his sell-on value or his ability to sign on a free in the summertime? I think that it made exceptional sense for him to go now. He can negotiate better terms than he was on at Celtic, which is what he wanted, obviously. And, that makes sense. But Sammy, for him to stay and not, try and go someplace where he's going to get consistent football, in my opinion, he's not going to play. He's not going to play for the rest of this season. And coming into a World Cup, that spot on the Greek World Cup team is not his. It's not. He needs to play in order to earn that spot. And by, running down his contract as he is and not signing the deal and not, just making his intentions known, I think puts him in a horrible spot. I mean, he's in serious jeopardy of not going to the World Cup. How stupid is that? That's why I'm surprised that Sammy didn't leave. If he had a brain in that head of his, listen, Marseille were in for him, Trabzonspor were in for him. I'd be on that in the middle of January and say, look, if you're not going to offer me better terms than this, then please, find someplace where I can play and have a chance to play for this Greek World Cup side. And you saw him. We tried to sell him. You saw him warm up today, and it's like, please sit down. You're not playing. You're not playing.
Didn't they try and sell him to Rennes last year? Wasn't that agreed to, and he wouldn't go?
There were a couple of somebody got a text. There were a couple of teams, over the past couple of years that have come in for him, and he refused to go. Now, granted, that was in a much different spot, where he had plenty of time left on his contract. This is a completely different situation. We're tendering him a contract. His contract's up in the summer, so there wasn't as much of a impetus for us not to play him when he has plenty of time left on his contract. If he comes in, he says, "No, I want to stay. I want to sort of rebuild my play, my form and my credibility by staying here." That's one thing. But to say, "All right, you know what? I have no future with this club. I'm just going to go in the summer on a free and see what the deal is." Then there's no impetus on Neil Lennon at the moment to play him. And as such,
which is a really unfair, Graham. It's unfair to Lenny. I mean, if anyone,
exactly.
if you were to measure how much Ledley or Samaras owes Celtic or owes Lennon, it would be by a million miles Samaras, who came here didn't play for Lennon right away. Found his, won a championship, then didn't win a couple. Then next thing you know, he's at the bottom of the bench. Lenny comes in, falls in love with him, resurrects his career after falling from grace at Man City, and then does this to him.
I agree.
Wow.
I was for sure that he was going to come to MLS and go to Toronto,
like everybody else.
Yeah, but I mean that's where I figured he was going to end up. Get him on kind of the cheap, and he come over here. But yeah, I was surprised a bit.
Well, like I said, I was reassured that he didn't get into the starting 11, and it didn't look like he was anywhere near getting on the pitch today, especially with Bo Richter coming on, and I would like to see that continue. I think that at this point, if he doesn't have any sort of future with us, if he's not going to re-sign the deal, no matter what the terms are, I mean, you could say we're not giving him a fair deal. That is what it is. The deal is what it is, and he made a mess of this transfer window, and whatever happens in the second half of the season, you can't blame on anybody but him.
Now, can he sign a pre-contract now?
Yes.
In a different country?
Yes. Yeah, he can sign a pre-contract with anybody at this point.
And then we can agree to let him go at that point in time if we want to?
No. He's under contract with Celtic for the rest of the season. Now, I mean, he can sign a pre-contract, but in order for him to have moved in, it
had to be done.
It had to be done.
What happened with Kelvin Wilson? That how it happened to Kelvin Wilson? Then they wouldn't let him leave.
Yes, but that happened in the January transfer window. Billy Davis, the Hun
Right.
prick from Nottingham Forest, wouldn't sell Kelvin Wilson to us for any amount of money, so we signed him on a pre-contract, and he wasn't allowed to leave. He wasn't allowed to come to Celtic until that summer, and he wound up training with their reserves, which he
never even played again.
No. He played. Yeah. He trained with their reserves in the meantime, which I wouldn't have any problem doing to Sammy at this point. I mean, maybe keeping him around for emergency situations or whatever, but we owe nothing to Sammy at this point. Especially given what you talked about, resurrecting his career, finding a place for him, and giving him some notoriety where he is rated by many clubs throughout Europe now. He certainly could have done Lenny and the club a solid by making some sort of intention known so that both parties could have benefited. And now we're sort of in the doldrums. Let's move on. I think that the sale of Joe Ledley was good in a lot of different ways. I mean, obviously, much in the same way as Samaras, his future isn't with Celtic. Now we have the opportunity to bring in Johansson, start him, and get his development going, especially with these qualifiers coming up. But it also frees up a lot of money in wages. Somewhere along the lines of about £500,000, which, when we are in this sort of fiscal restraint that we're in, every pound and pence that we can save is obviously going to benefit the whole. So I thought that was a good move from the club. That was a good move for Joe Ledley and his future. If Crystal Palace go down, if he does have a good run in this run into the end of the season, he's going to get a look from some other Premiership clubs, maybe even Cardiff, so that if they do go down, he can move on to a Premiership club, and we wish him nothing but the best. I mean, I was gutted to see him leave. He was one of my favorite players over the last few years. I mean, him coming on was really the beginning of an era, and to see him go is unfortunately the end of it. Rev, let me ask you. Let's let's get into it finally. Lee Griffiths.
What's there to say? I mean,
well, that's what I'm asking.
Okay. Going back to what I said at the top of the show, using the 4-4-1-1. If you're going to bring in a striker, Anthony Stokes is pretty much it. Right now, what we have for the go-to starting striker. If you're going to keep that formation, and that's how you're going to basically play, the remainder of the season, whatever, for the and into next season, the immediate future. If that's how you're going to play, and you're going to bring in a striker, which I agree we needed, one would think we would get a striker of equal or greater quality, to either replace Stokes as the starting striker or just someone as good as him to where, one plays 1 week, one plays the other week, one gets injured, whatever. To get someone who everyone pretty much agrees is inferior doesn't make sense when you have someone who is a bit less than Stokes already on the bench in Pookie. So why you're basically just getting another substitute if that's the formation you're playing, it doesn't make sense. And why for such a long contract too, 4 years, like, okay, I know he's a young guy and maybe that's the business side of it that maybe I don't understand, but looking at it for the team and what it means for the team, getting someone like that for 4 years, it's a bit of a head scratcher for me.
Dr. J, I'll turn it over to you, and then I'll sort of fire in. I mean, there was a lot of elements to this Lee Griffiths deal that met a lot of people, myself included, the wrong way. Most notably Griffiths' past and sort of his discipline and even some of it on the park, disciplinary issues. When we have, I mean, let's be honest, we're Celtic. We are a massive club that continuously plays in Europe. I mean, we've had a run now in European football, and we've really turned some heads. And to really go on the. I mean, it was almost like we were going down the supermarket aisle looking for canned goods with dents in them so we could get them cheaper. And for a club of the size and stature and significance of Celtic, I think it's disappointing, I think
it was what you're the one who said, like, we went from a couple of years ago from, Craig Bellamy's in the airport and all that shit to just, bargain bin.
Well, not just that. I mean, all of the rumors that, were bandied about this year were like, in the past, in the last day of the transfer window, it's like this person's at the airport and this person's rumored. I just saw that person at George Square. I just saw this person there, or whatever. Now the rumors were I just saw that person's agent, or an agent from Arsenal coming in to try and get Virgil. I saw an agent from Fulham coming in trying to get Fa. No longer at the end of the window we rumored to be in for these big names. Now all of a sudden the rumor is all of these clubs are in to poach our big names away. I mean, that's frustrating to me, and of course, Twitter's a funny place and people say, oh, Craig Bellamy, yeah, that's a great signing, whatever. It's not the point. That's not the point that I'm trying to make. It's the element of, the last day of the transfer window, we're just holding on for dear life, praying that nobody poaches our best player instead of going out and trying to genuinely improve ourselves. Now, do I think Lee Griffiths is going to be an improvement over, some of the finishing and some of the horrific center forward play that we've had this year? Yeah, I do. I think, I rate him as a player. Certainly has a nose for goal. His statistics back that up. I think that he gives the side something a bit different. He does have a creative element, but he does have that vision and that knack for putting the ball in the back of the net, and that's something that we need. But it does reek of sort of bargain bin scrapping the bottom of the barrel as if we're just sort of like the paupers of Europe, which is absolute nonsense. We just brought in another $20 million in Champions League revenue, in addition to all the profit that we had from last season. And we're supposed to be delighted. We're trotting out a guy with disciplinary issues in the past, including racism, as our marquee center forward signing in January. It's just it's not good enough for me. And the other issue that I had that sort of it really rubs me the wrong way. It doesn't sort of it absolutely rubs me the wrong way. Was there's this groundswell of folks saying that, well, he deserves a second chance, and who hasn't made mistakes, and now he's a Celtic player, as if once you put the Celtic jersey on, everything's forgiven, which is absolute bullshit. If he was signing for Rangers right now, we'd all be fucking going nuts. Oh yeah, the racist scumbag signing for the scum. We wouldn't be giving him second chances. We'd be calling him out for what he is. Now,
would you say that it's pretty close to? I mean, if you compare what I think, I mean, Griffiths, if he does the job, people will like him. I think that move smacked of NFL / Oakland Raiders. To me, because it's like, we're trying to bring this guy in, and Lenny's making the comment no different from Al Davis would make. Oh, we're going to make him better. We're going to resurrect his career. We're going to make him into a good guy. We're going to have this. We don't mind this bad guy image, but we're going to make him into. I saw that.
And it's
the
all
whole
hopeful.
Entire,
it's all just it's. I mean, there's no basis to think that he's going to change. If he does, listen, I hope that he does. I hope that no longer does he like strangle people and just outside of Waverly in Edinburgh and smash slushies in kids' faces. And I hope that he doesn't rip off Tesco and do shoplifting. And I hope that he doesn't send racist tweets. And I hope that he doesn't flick off or throw the Vicky at his own supporters or headbutt the manager. Good luck trying to headbutt Neil Lennon, by the way. I hope that he doesn't do all of these things going forward. But to expect that, I mean, it's like you're hooking up with a skanky girl and you want to make her your girlfriend. It's like, she'll be loyal to me. Okay, good luck with that. But I mean,
trying to date a stripper.
But the evidence is there that he's a perennial head case. And like I said, he plays for Celtic now, and if he scores tons of goals for Celtic, I'm happy at that. But what I'm not happy about on the front end is that, all of a sudden, now, as long as he puts on a Celtic jersey, who cares what he did? Who cares if he's a racist? And this whole argument of, well, this argument of, well, what's a proper racist and what's a daft wee laddie? Please, if you send a racist tweet to somebody, you can't say, oh, well, he's not a racist. He's a racist. How do you excuse that? If I send a racist, like if I tweet Meadowlark Lemon and I say he's the N-word, is anybody going to think I'm not a racist? Please. Don't give me this like, oh, now he plays for Celtic, so, all is forgiven. I'm not, of this mindset of like, oh, well, I'm not going to be happy if he scores. Of course I'm going to be happy if he scores. He's scoring for Celtic. But I'm not going to give him this like, sort of blank slate. And I'm not going to be surprised if he does this shit again. I'm going to be proud of him if he doesn't, if he cleans up his act and he flies right. But all of the evidence states that he won't. And who do we have to blame when he doesn't? We're all delighted that we signed, this guy that scores all sorts of goals for £1 million. Is that what our ambition is? There are better options. Is he going to be the answer in Europe? Do we really think that's Lee Griffiths is going to make Gerard Piqué shit in his pants if we get into the group stages next year? I don't think so.
We're playing Barcelona again? Jesus Christ.
We always fucking play Barcelona.
Hey, listen. Time to go drink wine.
All right. Dr. J, thanks for checking in.
Boys, hail, hail. And by the way, I really, and I hope people listening, I feel you. I feel what you're saying, Graham, and I want to say this from outside looking in at what you're saying. I don't wish any ill will or any harm to the boy. I want him to do well. I want him.
Me
to do
too.
Well. As a human being, I want him to do well.
Definitely, I agree.
And I think that's what you're saying is, but we have no confirmation that's going to happen. It's going to take time, and hopefully he does. And rooting for him. If he ends up doing both, then it might just work out.
Very well said. All right, thanks, Dr. J.
Anyway,
later,
boys.
Enjoy your wine.
Later.
Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.
San Pedro. Okay.
I don't mean to go like complete left field and get derailed, but
please.
fucking Philip Seymour Hoffman died.
Yeah, I just read that as well. Philip Seymour Hoffman was found in his apartment in Manhattan of a drug overdose. So rest in peace, Truman Capote.
Man.
That's fucked up.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Yesterday, while we were on the air, Paul and I, we learned of Neil Lennon getting abuse at Tynecastle, and oddly enough,
surprise.
Well, oddly enough, it wasn't even the Tynecastle faithful, the scumbos. It was Aberdeen supporters this time. What do you make of that, Rev?
I don't even know. I mean, am I shocked? Am I surprised? No. It's a tricky area for me because, given recent developments with the support and stuff and his statements made, I don't know. Don't get me wrong. I think it's awful and I think it's bad that it happened to him. And it's inexcusable. But, am I going to roll out the pity party for him? I don't know. And that's my own
You serious?
feelings.
Are you serious?
It's kind of hard to, to be there.
What, because
stand up for the guy
because he was addicted to the Green Brigade?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, Rev, come on. All that aside, the guy was attacked as he has been throughout the time that he's been in Scotland.
Right.
Based on, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. We all know why it is.
Right.
You're not going to support him.
No, I'm going to say, yeah, it sucks, and I feel bad for him, and I hope, the people that did it, get banned or whatever. I hope they get treated as though they were Green supporters by the police and Focus and all that, that they get the book thrown at them. But, as far as me going out and going on Twitter and being like, oh my God, that's so horrible, it sucked. I'll acknowledge it. It's bad. But am I gonna, be a banner carrier for him for right now? I don't think so.
Wow. Rev, not letting sleeping dogs lie, I guess. Now joining us from South Jersey, it is Yampy. Hey, brother.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Not too bad. We're just recapping the game today and a little transfer window talk, and we just got into talking about the events at Tynecastle yesterday. The Rev's holding firm. He's with the Green Brigade on this one, but we're talking about Aberdeen supporters at Tynecastle. Giving Neil Lennon all sorts of abuse. He was spit on. He had pies thrown at him, bottles thrown at him, and what do the stewards do? Oh, you know what? Listen, Neil Lennon, you're too much of a problem here. You're taking all sorts of abuse. You're gonna have to leave the stadium. I mean, what do you make of that?
Probably what most rational people should make of it is kind of fucked up. I mean, whatever your feelings for the man, keep in mind that, that this is, 21st century. Fucking, you gotta be, to sit there and blame the guy and be like, oh, it's his fault because he brings it upon himself because he goes to scout a match is fucking ridiculous.
Within that lies the problem. Because it excuses this sort of behavior, and there's never any sort of accountability for it. It fucking pisses me off.
And it should. I mean, take out all the bullshit that's going on, in like the football aspect of it, like this with the Green Brigade and that. This is a guy who has a right to go wherever the fuck he wants to go in the country,
and he's not bothering anybody. He's watching a fucking game.
Right. I mean, it's almost like the whole rape victim kind of scenario. It's like, oh, well, she brought it on herself because she dresses provocatively. Oh, he brings it on himself because he doesn't fucking just roll over for bigots. I mean, that's bullshit. I mean, you don't have to sit there and look, he showed a lot more restraint than I ever would have, man. For 1 hour, you have people cursing you out, and they're trying to, fucking get you to rise up to what they're doing.
But
so
you know
they get
what?
frustrated and they start throwing coins and cups and shit at them. I mean, what kind of fucking society is that?
But you know what? All credit to him for not responding, because that's exactly what they wanted. And if he would have responded, they would have used that against him. It would have been twisted into, Neil Lennon was provocative and he was controversial and he was, inflammatory. All these adjectives that they used for Neil Lennon, and I'm proud of him for not responding to it. For taking the high road with it, and and that's exactly what needs to happen in this situation. Something else.
It's like the Jackie Robinson thing. You heard about Jackie Robinson when he first came into baseball and everything, and all the different fans and managers in the league trying to, get a rise out of him. And it's like the at the time the Dodgers were like, you can't feed into that.
Right.
These people are trying to get their hooks in you, and you can't feed, no matter how bad you want to. You can't feed into it and go off, because it's going to, you're going to justify everything that they said about you.
Well, not only that, I mean, you drag yourself down to their level. You're just as bad as they are. Whereas, if you just take the high road and you let them continually show their ass, listen, when your adversary is in the middle of making a mistake, don't interrupt them. Just let them continually do it, and it reflects back on them. The thing that I'm surprised about and confused by is the response from some Celtic supporters saying that this wasn't sectarian in nature. If it wasn't sectarian, if this attitude towards Neil Lennon And it's always made out to be this west of Scotland issue, the sectarianism and, the hatred based on religious lines or the fact that somebody's from Ireland. And quite often Italians who are Catholic don't really have the same set of issues to have to go through that, the Irish do. Right. But yet we see the Aberdeen supporters who are watching their club in a stadium in Edinburgh doing this, partaking in this. My question is, and like I said, some Celtic supporters are saying, oh, this isn't sectarian based. Then what is it? What is it based on? There are plenty of other inflammatory, managers, that come out and, Terry Butcher rips up dugouts. Alan McCoist is just a cheeky chappy and all that kind of stuff. It just happens that Neil Lennon is always the target for people like this. So if it's not sectarianism, what is it?
It's anti-Irish racism, and that's the reality of it, man. It's not a matter of fact. Oh, he can dish it, but he can't take it. It's just a wind up. It's just that's bullshit, man. I was watching. I saw a picture the other day of Spike Lee at a Knicks game, and he's sitting there and he's just chilling. And he's nobody's around him. They got security near there. He's got the little plexiglass window in front of him. I mean, it's fucking ridiculous that a high-profile individual such as Neil Lennon can't go to a match and just fucking chill. If you did that in the States, if you tried to go up to Spike Lee there, you'd get your fucking head caved in.
Exactly.
I mean, this is ridiculous. This isn't the first time it's fucking happened in that place.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect example. Nobody's going to go up to Spike Lee and ask him to leave because he's the inflammatory black guy.
Right, yeah, exactly. And it's like, all of a sudden, you get these people, oh, well, it's Neil Lennon's fault, oh, man, they're just, Terry Butcher got shit said to him, and it's no big deal, da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, that's bullshit, though, man. You can't sit there for 60 minutes just go on and on and on, have all these people on ranting like a bunch of fucking morons, and then when that doesn't work, let's just start chucking shit at them.
Yeah, and this getting back to the argument that this isn't sectarian in nature, or that that Aberdeen supporters aren't basing this on sectarianism. I mean, read some of the tweets that were coming from Aberdeen fans and fans of other clubs as well that aren't surrounding Glasgow. Calling him a tag. Telling him, calling Celtic supporters, a product of the religious apartheid school system. I mean, please, and then. If you want to rationalize it as, it's just football banter, that's what the Huns used to say. It's just football banter. But you know what? I mean, if I send a tweet to Richard Sherman, calling him the N-word, I'm not going to be. That's not football banter. Yeah, that's not just 90-minute bigot or whatever. That's racism. And this. I mean, if you send out a tweet calling somebody a tag, that's sectarian. If you want to sing the famine song in a bar, as the Aberdeen supporters have done, that is sectarian. That's not football banter. That's not media fueled influence. That's the other argument. It's just fueled by the media. I don't care where it's fueled from. If you say that, you are a bigot. If it comes from your parents, if it comes from the lodge, if it comes from your church, if it comes from wherever. It doesn't matter. You have to have the good sense of saying, you know what, that's wrong, and not do it. And if you do it, you're a bigot. I'm not going to explain away, these actions. It's just the media. Fuck the media. We all know what the media is. I mean, Graham Spears sends out a tweet saying, Neil Lennon, he's Irish, he's Catholic, and he stands up for himself. So that's controversial. It's bullshit. It's up to you, if you're not a bigot, to interpret that as saying, you know what, that's wrong. That's wrong, and I'm not going to participate. And if you do participate, you are sectarian and you're a bigot. I'm not going to explain it away. And you can tell me all you want that you live in Scotland and and it's not that way. You know what? I don't live on the North Pole either, and I know it's cold as shit.
Truth, brother. Truth. And it's like, I mean, if you take it out and say, like, instead of like, he's Irish and Catholic, or it'd be like, if you just change the words to like, if he's black. That makes him controversial. Really? I mean, it's odious. It's ugly. And the people that try to rationalize it and justify it need to really fucking take a good look in the mirror, because it's unacceptable. In a normalized, rational, right-minded society, that kind of behavior, to treat a human being as something less than like what he is, a person. It's
based
really
on where he's from and his
fucking
religion.
behavior.
Exactly. And I'm not trying to say that, everybody in Scotland is sectarian or, everybody in Scotland is anti-Catholic. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the forces that be that want to attack Neil Lennon, as was described by Sky as a tiny majority, that wasn't because it was banter or whatever else, because it's only Neil Lennon that's getting this treatment, okay? So this isn't just based on banter. If it was just based on banter, Ally McCoist would get shit thrown at him. Terry Butcher would get shit thrown at him. Kenny Shields would get shit thrown at him. All of these people. But there's only one that gets this attention. And why? If it's not sectarian, tell me why then. Tell me why. There is a tiny majority that is anti-Catholic and specifically anti-Irish Catholic. And that inherently is the problem. And it's fueled by the media, but it's up to this tiny majority to make the decision that it's wrong and they're not going to participate. And if they do decide to participate, they are inherently sectarian. And that is why Neil Lennon gets singled out.
Nothing I can add to that, man. That's spot on. Absolutely spot on. Go ahead, Raf. Sorry.
I was going to say, I agree with you 100% about what you're saying. You are in no way wrong, with the reasoning of why it happens and that it is only him. All I'm saying is, for me personally, I'm having a hard time lately, coming to, like I said, just being all about Neil Lennon and kind of forgiving. Like, did he personally do anything to me? Did he come out and make statements against me? No, obviously. I'm over here. I'm not a member of the Green Brigade or, the element that he was referring to. But it still, I kind of indirectly feel slighted.
Listen, Rev.
I feel hurt.
Listen,
so
Rev.
That's what I mean by saying, like, it's kind of hard for me to just right away drop everything and run to his defense.
Listen.
Yes, I will defend him, but to that extent, I find it hard.
Listen.
I don't think it's a matter of running to his defense, Rev. I think it's a matter of being able to know what is right and what's wrong.
Exactly.
I mean, we try to raise our kids with a certain set of morals and values and everything, and I think you have to kind of, and it's not easy for people to do, but disconnect a little bit of what's going on with the football and the Green Brigade and everything else, and try to look at this for what it is.
Exactly.
When you see something that's not right, you gotta kind of say, it don't matter. You and I, Rev, we haven't always been on the greatest of terms, but that's cool. If somebody did something bad to you or said something bad to you, I would have to be like, you know what? We got to put personal feelings aside a second. If somebody's being, wrong to you, as a, if nothing else, as a decent human being, I got to fucking man up and say, you know what? That's bullshit. You can't disrespect somebody.
No.
You can't disrespect somebody for being Catholic. You can't disrespect somebody for having red hair. You can't disrespect somebody because they're a manager of a fucking club you don't like.
Listen,
there's a difference between disrespect and being a fucking bigot or racist, man.
Yampy, I agree completely with what you're saying, Rev. I think what you're talking about is and I wanted to sort of touch on this anyway, and I think that let's reframe this discussion a bit if we can. Talking about the fact that when Neil Lennon was involved in this whole Green Brigade thing or whatever, and Neil Lennon was quite vocal in his sort of bashing, if you will, of the Green Brigade on dubious terms, at best, let's be honest, especially in light of the fact that the Green Brigade was there to support him so many times, and when they were in their time of need, he wasn't there for them. I totally get that argument. I totally get that feeling. What this situation reflects, though, put to one side the fact that this is Neil Lennon specifically, the man and what he did, not too long ago, with the actions that I just described. And think of it more in terms of what he represents. Let's not, sort of look at this as a Neil Lennon issue. This isn't a Neil Lennon issue. This is an issue that affects many Celtic supporters, who are of Irish descent, who identify and really identify with that Irish heritage and Catholicism, to a certain extent, and nationalism. That's really what is at issue here. The fact that not just Neil Lennon, but so many people have endured treatment like this, that's been similar, and it's always been papered over, it's always been swept away, it's always been covered up, it's always been, sort of justified. That's the issue here. That's what I'm running to sort of, that's why I'm outraged, and that's why I'm supporting Neil Lennon with this. I'm with you in terms of, every time Neil Lennon gets into one of these situations, everybody is there to have his back, no matter what. It doesn't matter the terms or the context. And in the past, he hasn't reciprocated that at times, specifically with the Green Brigade. But this specific issue it's completely out of order, and it reflects something that is endemic within Scottish football specifically.
Right. No, definitely, and I agree with that. I guess maybe I'm just a little off on how I'm describing. Like 100% fully back that, and I agree with everyone. In solidarity, standing together. Just what I'm trying to say is, I guess, with this particular instance of that systemic issue as a whole, in this particular instance, I just drop a little short of running right back to we are all Neil Lennon again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. I get what you're saying, and I get where you're coming from. I'm more of the camp that this is too important of an issue, to sort of, insert context of, the point scoring and so on, if that's the correct term. I think that we need to put this issue aside for the time being and really support him, because, again, in a situation where not only is he not doing anything wrong, but he's being targeted, because of who he is, where he's from, and what he represents is entirely just wrong. And by not supporting him, it doesn't make the plight of the Green Brigade any better. I think that, that by...
And if they come out and like you said, it seems that they did. If they came out and issued a statement of support and backing him, then in kind of bringing it back on to what you said about him taking the high road with, the abuse that he gets, you can say that they're taking the high road by saying, like, you know what, past differences aside, we have your back now.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
As it should be, man. You're not going to sit there. Look, man, we're not going to have perfect symmetry with every person we ever encounter in life, man. That's just not fucking very realistic. But that being said, no matter what he does, no matter what Neil Lennon did, he give enough support for the Green Brigade, did he not, blah, 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 that shouldn't alter the standards that you have in your own life.
Right.
You that should be irrespective. What other people do in the periphery around you is inconsequential to how you are as a person. So if you're anti-fascist and you're in this and that and da-da-da-da-da, you got to stand up for what's right.
Regardless. Right, and that's why I say, like, I feel kind of caught in between here because, the situation, you replace it with any other person, and 100% I know how I'm, or it doesn't even have to be a specific person, just the incidents by itself with, generically. I know exactly how I feel 100%, and that hasn't changed just the fact that it's him now. It's just, I kind of be like, but you just did that, and now it's this, and it kind of feels a little hard, and maybe that's just me, and I have to do my own little soul searching or whatever, but it's just a weird situation to be in.
Hey, Yumpy, speaking of racist, we just signed Neil Lennon. We just signed we just signed Lee Griffiths. I just fucked that up.
Shit happens, dude.
Freudian slip much?
Yumpy, what are your thoughts? I mean, we talked about this. We were quite vocal last week about the potential. It was rumored at the time that we were in for Lee Griffiths, and it seemed at that time that this is below the level that we really need to be aspiring to, not just from the off-field issues, but also on-field. I don't know how much he lends to our European ambitions. Yes, he does give us something that we're currently missing, which is a poacher. But certainly I think that we could and should have done better. But all that aside, I mean, we've seen a response that is almost like, let's wipe the slate clean for him all of a sudden now because he wears a Celtic strip. I in a certain sense, I just feel that cheapens the values and the morals of the club. What are your thoughts?
No, I might be in a little bit of Reville there with the muddied waters and everything about Griffiths now, so it's like the roles are reversed here. Look, man, it's tough for me. Everybody's seen the tweet that he had for the dude on Twitter and what he said and everything.
And just in case folks listening in haven't seen the tweet, because there were a lot of people who were confused about what exactly he said. He did respond to someone who was giving him a bit of stick, said he looked like a thumb. Nothing that we haven't done. But he told them to. It was someone of Muslim background, and he told them to go fuck off back to their own country, which is certainly not on.
Unacceptable. I don't know. I was trying to. I really thought on it a lot, and I was thinking about it again yesterday, and it bothers me a little because it's like, one thing I had said was the one way he could remedy that is by scoring goals and doing well in a Celtic top, but it doesn't change what he said.
And how does that make us any better than Liverpool supporters who wear T-shirts supporting Luis Suarez after he, makes racial slurs to players in the park and then bites somebody? How does that make us any better than that?
It doesn't, and that's what I mean. That's a problem, and that's why I'm conflicted. And it's like I got a little pissy about it on transfer deadline day, and I just was like, you know what? No matter what happens, we always call like Celtic our club. We love this club. It means the world to us and everything. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's not our club. You're at the whim of business people, and they're going to do whatever the fuck they want, whether you feel strongly about something or not. And they put the supporters in a very contradictory kind of situation where they're forced to root for a guy who isn't the most likable person in the world. Not the way he's behaved, not the way he's reacted. Griffith seems like a real sensitive dude. He needs to grow up. I had said that he reminded me a lot of the whole Riley Cooper situation with the Eagles. You have a guy who's, come out and said something he shouldn't.
And let's and this is a perfect analogy. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but let's give some color behind the Riley Cooper situation, because I think it's important to discuss this and the differences. Riley Cooper is a wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles and was videotaped over the summer at a Kenny Chesney concert, yelling out the N-word. Which is about the worst thing. Yes, it's even worse than the C word. It's about the worst
of any black person there.
Yeah, it's the worst word that you could possibly use here, and it led to a lot of strife within the club, especially considering many of his teammates and many of the obviously the wide receivers, much of the coaching staff are African American themselves. So there's a strong element of hurt that was associated with that. But his response to that, in my opinion, was one of contrition. He was very apologetic. He was very contrite. He didn't sort of try and explain it away, or say that, it was just, a bit of banter or whatever. He owned up to it. He put his head down, and he went about his business. And it's not the type of thing where, anybody went and said, oh, well, he's not a racist as long as he catches those touchdowns, which is something that I'm having a hard time reconciling from folks who are saying, as long as he scores goals, nobody's really going to care about, the fact that he made these racist statements. What I'm saying is, yes, I'm going to be happy when he scores, and I hope he scores a lot, but that's not going to change the fact that if somebody comes to me and says, that guy's kind of a racist, I'm going to say, yeah, actually he is. Until, there's some sort of event, and some sort of a contrite response to that, that tells me that he's taking this seriously. His response to that particular incident was, saying, I'm not a racist, and it was just, a bit of banter on Twitter or whatever. Well, I'm sorry, but, the comment says otherwise, and sometimes you just need to own it.
Yeah, and he seems like he just wants to kind of just keep, steamrolling forward, but I don't think that putting blinders on is the best way to handle it, man. I mean, it's never going to go away. That's a permanent stain. But he could go a long way to try to give a lot more kind of like light to what he said. I mean, he has to take. You're right. He has to take ownership of that.
Rev,
and I don't. Unlike with Riley Cooper, Lee Griffiths really hasn't.
Rev, you were going to say something. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it could be worse, It could be 1998, and we could know, what Paulo Di Canio's true feelings were off the field.
Well, and that was one of, and I'm glad that you brought that up. That was one of the sort of defenses that was brought up. Oh, well, Di Canio's a fascist, and nobody had a problem with that. Yeah, except when Di Canio played for Celtic in 96 and 97, he hadn't, that Lazio Nazi salute was in 2005. That was 8 years after he had played for Celtic. You think if he would have done that prior to coming to Celtic, that response would have been the same?
People would have been seriously going mental.
I hope they would be.
Rightfully so.
I hope they would be. Otherwise, what the hell is the mantra and the ethos of this club worth? What's it worth? How are we any different from Liverpool supporters? Seriously.
I mean, and I get it, dude. I work in education. I see teenagers and stuff, and a lot of times they'll say stupid shit every day that they don't mean. But you know what? He's a public figure, and he's paid well. I understand that he probably wishes could he take it back? Yeah, absolutely. But he's got to explain it.
Well, and I mean, the other justification was, oh, well, that guy called him bad names, and, that's hurtful too, so that's just as bad as racism. I'm sorry, every professional football player on the face of the earth gets abuse on Twitter. Leo Messi is the greatest player maybe that has ever walked the earth, and he gets abusive tweets. Does he respond by saying, fuck off back to your own country to a brown person? No! That doesn't excuse it. All right.
Yeah, again, you're totally right with that. There's no excuse for it, but it's stupid shit that he should never have said. I mean, he was, to sit there and I saw the thing about him too, where he's talked about, he had thoughts of suicide and this and that, and blah blah blah. Life's hard, man. Life's hard, but that's not you don't get a pass for saying dumb shit.
No.
You still have to kind of like man up and live life and not be an asshole.
And it's not, listen, there's people, you've never made a mistake in your life. Well, I've never tweeted racist abuse. But, it goes beyond that. I mean, it's not just this tweet that he sent out. I mean, he's got one thing after another, of
the whole theft thing.
I mean, he shoplifts and then he says, oh, I'm so sorry. And I'm saddened that I'm saddened that I disrespected the club, or I brought this negative attention, and it's never going to happen again. And then he gets suspended for a couple weeks, and he comes back. And then there's him flicking off his own supporters. He flashes the Vicky to his own supporters, and then I'm so sorry, and I disrespected the supporters, and I'm embarrassed by this, and it'll never happen again. And then he sends out a racist tweet. Oh, I'm so sorry, and I'm not a racist. It was just banter on Twitter, and I apologize to the guy. I mean, it goes back to my original question. Are we really going to be surprised when and if he does this again? I hope he doesn't. I hope he pushes on and he grows as a human being and he learns. And I hope that Neil Lennon, does have success in terms of getting in his head and having him, just mature. I genuinely hope that happens. But we can't feign outrage and surprise when or if it does happen again.
And you can't also be pissed at people for not being all warm and fuzzy that we fucking signed the guy.
Oh, he's a Celtic player and you have to support him. Well, you know what? Listen, on the day of the transfer window closing, and I didn't want us to sign him for all these reasons listed. And when we did sign him, and it's like, what the hell are we doing? There's going to be a reaction from people like myself, who say, I can't believe we're doing this, and it's just completely wrong. A couple days have passed, a week will pass, a couple months will pass, and the reality is we have signed him, and that sort of shock element is going to have to go away because the reality is he plays for Celtic now. It doesn't excuse anything that he's done, and listen, he's not a hero. by any stretch. I'm not going out and getting his jersey or looking at him as a role model by
I
any
was
stretch.
thinking that I'd love to see the sales numbers on how many tops are sold with his name personalized on.
There'll be tops sold with his number on it, especially if he comes in and he scores loads of goals. There's and it goes back to your point a bit earlier, where the club has put us in this sort of moral hazard area of do we stand up for what the club stands for and believes in, or are we just a football club? More than just a club. This whole mantra, this whole marketing message that Celtic likes to trot out. Are we going to be just more than just a club, or are we just a football club that is going to capitalize on a cheap transfer and overlook a player's mentality? I mean, we saw tweets coming out, quoting Willie Maley saying, the only thing that's important is what a player does in the park. Are you kidding me? You're bastardizing what Willie Maley said? If Willie Maley, I mean, I'm sorry, but Willie Maley, wouldn't be celebrating some guy that's a racist. Willie Maley also said it's not the creed or the nationality or the religion, it's the man himself. So that's the question we need to ask. Now, with that being said, he plays for Celtic now, and all we could do is just hope that he grows up.
But that is like the centerpiece of my whole point. The club should never. They have more than enough money, more than enough assets, that they didn't have to put the supporters and everybody else in this tenuous position. It's like just one more fucking wedge in a litany of fucking issues that is always surrounding this club, and it's not generated by the supporters. It's generated by the fucking board. And we have this discussion every week about all the bullshit that they do. And they don't give a fuck. They really don't, man.
No, they definitely do not.
They don't. The board is going to do whatever the hell it wants, irrespective of what you think, I think, or any other right-minded person thinks.
That's what I was just going to say next was, let's bring it around and have everybody hate us all over again. And say the real winners of the transfer window was the balance sheet.
Yeah. And that's it, man. It's like at the end of the day, it's all about how much money did they save, maximizing the bang for their buck, so to speak. They wanted to get the best possible person at the cheapest rate possible, and they could have avoided all this shit by getting somebody and spending a little extra money, and they didn't. So now we're kind of like stuck chewing on the crap sandwich.
Yep. Tastes like shit.
Yes, it does. It does.
It does look like we got a player in Stefan Johansson, though. I think that was probably a very good bit of business. Judging.
He looked sublime today, man. It was nice. He was nice. I'll give him that. But again, I don't know. They'll sit there and call me a hypocrite and say, oh, well, you like when they do moves like this, but not like that. But I'm not suggesting they sign a guy who's a fucking tweeted racist. That's not my suggestion. There can be a better way there.
Yumpy, not ready to move on.
No, I'm not. I'm just a little agitated.
No, listen, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. It confuses me too. And it doesn't address the fact that we need an out-and-out striker that is going to drastically increase the likelihood that we're going to get through the qualifiers this summer, which I don't feel as though we have at the moment. And really, make our mark on the Champions League once again, and not just make up the numbers, as it seemed we did this past fall.
And, you start looking down the road somewhat, and everybody's celebrating La Gran Marala today, Mariah, whatever you say in Spanish. And, when is Forster going to be off? When is Van Dijk going to be off? And what's the club going to look like then?
We didn't do anything to address the goalkeeping issue. We didn't bring in another center half, which I think is a glaring need, given the likelihood that Virgil van Dijk is away. He just puts in one fantastic performance after the next. And, it leaves us in a position where in the summer we're really going to be up against it.
The board will brag how much they got for him, and we broke the bank with another financial move, and just like they did Wanyama. And what did they do with that money?
I don't remember if I said this on Twitter or maybe on the last show, but it's pretty obvious now that really where we're going to get our money, our main our big bucks, our income is going to be from, Champions League windfall. So you would think that they would do the best they can in order to, get us to, through the qualifiers into the group stage, then into the, last 16, do shit like that. And yes, I see how they're trying to get into those positions and keep, one-upping and getting to the next level by doing the bare minimum possible and spending the least amount of money possible. But we're not going to get past the, not progress from the group stages if we're not going to spend, we don't have to, even go and spend an exorbitant amount of money.
Exactly.
Just a decent amount of money.
Exactly.
Just something
spend
to make
what we bring in. Just that. We're turning profits left and right, and people are celebrating the balance sheet as if, we're going to get a trophy for, the best balance sheet. I mean, it's ridiculous. We're not building from a position of strength.
You look at their response to, we beat Cliftonville, and then we squeak through Gandy, and their response was to get Pookie, Bo Richter, and now Griffiths. I mean, it's
a shocking lack of ambition.
I mean, there really is. I mean, there's no sense of fucking urgency by the board. There's no sense of urgency. The clock's ticking here, man. And you want to really, return to that round of 16 in the Champions League and make some fucking real money, Mr. Lowell? Well, you're not really going to do it with Stokes kicking the ball into the fucking crowd. You're not going to really do it with Bo Richter coming in the 83rd minute, and you're praying that he just won't trip over his own fucking feet and be out 6 weeks. What are we doing here? Before we know it, it's going to be that time again. It's going to be like, hey, Forster's off. How did we answer the bell on that? Oh, Van Dyke's off. How do we answer the bell on that? We just going to slide Charlie McGrew in the back, What are we doing here?
Yeah,
I think I'll leave the actual equation up to you guys with the market degrees and business degrees and Dr. J and shit. But say we get, just throwing a number out there hypothetically, say for getting into the group stages we get $5 million. Take a third of that and then put that into getting a new player in a position that we need, or getting ready to replace a player that might be off. Okay, then we get through the group stages, we get to last 16, we get $20 million, for doing that. All right, take, a fourth of that maybe, or again a third, put that into a new player, or securing a player's contract to keep them on for a little bit longer, something like that. If we already have reasonable. That kind of thing, there's got to be some easy kind of way to go about thinking of how much money we actually have to spend instead of just doing, like I said, the bare minimum.
I think that's reasonable, and I think that's all that anybody's really asking for, and we're not getting it, and it's extremely frustrating. Boys, I'm up against it. We got to wrap it up here in a few minutes. I want to get your Super Bowl predictions, but before we do that, just got a message in from Fans Against Criminalization. They are delighted to announce plans to release the single Roll of Honor in association with the Irish Brigade for the duration of the week beginning the 8th of February. The single is going to be available for download on iTunes. So they want to thank the Irish Brigade. They've allowed their song to go up to help the campaign against criminalization of football supporters and the suppression of political expression. It's a great cause. Download the Roll of Honor anytime in the week of February 8th to February 15th. And, the goal here is to get it into the UK top 40 singles and, obviously highlight the fact that this song is nothing to be embarrassed about. It's a ballad of civil resistance, much to the same identity, to the same level of many of the songs that were released through the 1960s. Much better than this Justin Bieber bullshit of Baby Baby or whatever the hell. Wrecking on a Cannonball or whatever the hell, that Miley Cyrus bullshit is. I mean, this is something that, affects people, that's ingrained in our history. It's human rights. And it's something that's endemic with the Celtic support, with many Celtic supporters that we identify with. But, the SMP and this Offensive Behavioral Football Act targets our own supporters, along the lines of what we've discussed today. And it's vital that, we highlight the fact that this is wrong. this can't stand. And the more attention we can draw towards this being wrong, the better. So keep an eye out. Like I said, the week of February 8th to the 15th, download the Roll of Honor from the Irish Brigade, and hopefully we can spread this around the world to raise the level up into the top 40 of the UK. Get the attention on how wrong this is. So fantastic work again from Fans Against Criminalization, and we wish them nothing but the best there.
That's pretty awesome.
Okay. Super Bowl Sunday. I got to wrap this up here in the next 5 minutes. Let's get your predictions. First, Yumpy, Seahawks and the Broncos. Who do you like?
Do you need a score or are you just a prediction?
Whatever you got.
I saw the line changed on it. It went up a point. It's now, 2.5? Broncos given 2.5. I'm feeling really strong about the Broncos. I think they're going to roll with this. I think it's going to beat the over-under. Over-under was 48.5 total points. So I'm going Broncos minus 2.5 with the 48.5 over for the 48.5. And Seahawks have a nice defense, but I don't – look, man, I saw what the Broncos did to the Eagles this year, man. That's a pretty fucking solid team. Broncos are tough all around, and I think that Manning's going to get his trophy today.
Rev.
I think the Broncos are a safe bet, although I wouldn't be surprised if the Seahawks came out and did it. I don't know. I'm kind of torn. I would
make a decision, Rev.
Hold on. I'll make a decision.
Good Lord.
I know people that are both Broncos fans and Seahawks fans, and I don't want to give either of them the satisfaction. I don't like to say the Niners in it, but that's just me. I don't know.
It's so hard when it's another team you give two shits about, to be honest with you.
Right. Like, I would like to see Peyton go and get, try to be as good as his younger brother is.
Oh, God. Here we go.
Whoa.
But then, at this, I wouldn't mind.
Come on, Rev.
Everyone giving Richard Sherman a bunch of shit for the last 2 weeks. I would like to see the Seahawks win.
Come on, Rev.
I just like a great game. I'll take the over, definitely.
Okay, Broncos from the Rev.
What? Yeah, fuck it. Just give me the Broncos.
All right, thank you. Jesus, God.
Who you picking, G?
I got the Broncos. I think that, you got the number one offense in the league with the Broncos going up against the number one defense, so that's obviously going to be an interesting matchup. But when you take a look at the leadership and, the players that the Broncos have that have been to the game before, you have a coach with John Fox that has been to the Super Bowl before. Let's be honest, John Fox isn't doing jack shit. It's all Peyton Manning. He's going to be motivated to, as Rev mentioned, get that additional Super Bowl to get up to the level of his brother. But he's just been on fire this entire season. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to be the leadership aspect of the Broncos that's going to carry the day over the Seahawks. I think it's going to be a close game, and I think it's going to come down to special teams, but I got the Broncos in a squeaker.
I'm tell you what, I'm going to watch 5 minutes of this fucking game. I'm going to be like, you know what? I hate both of these fucking teams. I hate the assholes. You see them at halftime.
Give us the commercials.
Out for the band or whatever. It's Bruno Mars, whatever the fuck that is. And I'll go around, yay, I'm such a good fan. And I'm just going to be like, fuck this. It's off. I saw the doc posted a picture. $14 cans of Coors Light at the stadium.
Yeah.
$11 hot chocolates.
$6 a bottle of water. Am I on fucking Mars here, man?
That seems reasonable.
Fuck that. It's just a bunch of rich fucking assholes sitting around patting each other on the ass saying, yeah, I'm at the Super Bowl. Take a selfie. Fuck off.
That pretty much sums it up.
Hoffman died, man.
That pretty much sums it up.
Philip Seymour Hoffman died.
Jerry in the chat room just pointed out Peter Lawless been spotted outside the Super Bowl admiring the drive up to the entrance. So thanks.
Fucking Doc's going to meet him.
Thanks for that, Jerry. Appreciate that.
Are you guys going to a Super Bowl party?
No. Well, I'm going over to the in-laws, and I'm gonna have my Nick Foles jersey on. I'll tweet a selfie. I'll do a beard update with the Nick Foles jersey on. It's gonna be beautiful.
Well, here, I was just going to ask. I was debating, to go to a party. It's going to be all Giants fans. But I wanted to know if I should be that asshole who's going to wear, Celtic gear.
Yeah, do it.
I was thinking about it.
Do it.
I don't give a fuck.
Exactly.
Hey, I don't have an orange shirt. I'm not going to wear an orange shirt. Fuck that.
Exactly. Good for you, Rev. That's a good move. It goes with what we were talking about last week. You know, the Celtics supporters over here, we just wear Celtics shit everywhere.
Not to get sidetracked, but you see Philip Seymour Hoffman died, right?
Yeah, we talked about that.
I didn't catch. I must have. Dude, Big Lebowski was fucking awesome.
I know. Yeah.
It's disappointing. 46. He's just a little bit older than me.
You're out of your element, Donnie.
Love the Big Lebowski.
That rug really ties the room together.
These are our concerns, dude.
He's shoving his head in the toilet. He's like, "Where's the money, Lebowski?" He's like, "I don't know. Let me go take another look."
At least I'm housebroken.
All right, fellas, I got a dip. I'm out of here.
Yampy, thanks as always. We'll talk to you soon.
Later.
All right, Rev. Another good one. I got to wrap this up so I can do my Super Bowl prep. Put the beard balm in. But another good result and another string of great results. So a lot to be positive about now, and we'll move on from the transfer window. And I think we've got a lot of energy from this momentum, staying unbeaten, and we have a huge cup tie that has even added importance now, considering the events of yesterday. So we're going to be looking forward to that. All the best in the coming week to everyone. And thanks again to Paul Larkin for joining us yesterday. And if you'd like to contribute, please listen back to the show that we did from yesterday under the Asterisk Gears number 5. If you'd like to contribute to the cause and to the effort that Paul's putting forth, please visit theasteriskgears.com for more information on how you can get involved. Become an executive producer of a groundbreaking documentary. It's really important stuff. So. And check out the Roll of Honor the week of February 8th to the 15th. Fans Against Criminalization, Jeanette Finley, and everybody involved with that doing great work. So all the best, and taking us out as always. Oh, Jesus.
Real quick, sorry.
Yeah.
Do you know what the Scotland record for longest clean sheet streak is? Is that now 11, or is that something else?
It's now 11.
Okay. I didn't know if that was the record or just the Celtic record.
No. I don't know. We'll look it up.
Okay. Do your homework. Let me know.
I'm going to do my homework. We'll send Dr. J on it. But in the meantime, for Yampy, Dr. J, and the Rev, of course, I'm Graham Wilson. Taking us out as always. Shane McGowan and the Pogues. Hail and keep the faith. Talk to you soon.
The island, it is silent now, but the ghosts still haunt the waves. And a torch lights up a famished man who fortune could not save. Did you work upon the railroads? Did you ride the streets of crime? Were your dollars from the White House? Were they from the 5 and dime? Did the old songs start to cheer you? And did they still make you cry? Did you count the months and years, or did your teardrops quickly dry? I know 15th was not to be on a cupping ship. I came here and I never even got so far that they could change my name. Thousands are sailing across the western ocean to a land of opportunity that some of them will never see. Fortune prevailing across the western ocean, their bellies full, their spirits free. They'll break the chains of poverty and they'll dance. In Manhattan's desert twilight, in the dead of afternoon, we stepped hand in hand on Broadway, like the first man on the moon. And a blackbird broke the silence as you whistled, it's so sweet. And then Brendan Behan's footsteps, I danced up and down the street. And we said goodnight to Broadway, giving it our best regards. Tipped our hats to Mr. Cohen, dear old Times Square's favorite bird. Then we raised a glass to JFK and a dozen more besides. When I got back to my empty room, I suppose I must have cried. Thousands are sailing again.